Welcome everyone to the Le Mans Virtual Cup, another round of the Le Mans Virtual Series. We're gearing up for qualifying for the 500 miles of Sebring. But before that, we have to decide which two drivers are going to be racing in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual next year with those drivers. Those two drivers will, of course, be coming via the Le Mans Virtual Cup. And to talk you through the final race, which will be taking place at Bahrain, will be myself, Chris McCarthy, and alongside me, as ever, Lewis McGlade. Lewis, this a series that started last year, a competition that was hugely successful. Two drivers that qualified through, one of them who we now have racing in the series. And today, we're going to decide which two drivers are going to be going on to race in the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual next year. A fantastic opportunity for these drivers.
It really is. I mean, it's been an incredible run so far. Of course, it's very tight between Zoltan Varkonyi and Sean Arnold, who've finished first and second in all three of the races thus far. But a couple of changes. Sean Arnold's not racing in his normal setup, as he'll be racing from over in Germany. Obviously, he's gone over to the Sim Expo. See how well he'll do in that one. He's only got to get a top 25 to make his way through. Varkonyi's a little bit of a tougher test, having to get inside the top 10.
Well, look, for those of you who are here for qualifying, sit tight. We have some big names coming up in that, along with a two-times Formula One world champion. But before that, we are going to have this cup race. And if you haven't watched the Le Mans Virtual Cup before, here's a little bit more information about it.
The Le Mans Virtual Cup supports the Le Mans Virtual Series across 4 rounds, with individual drivers battling it out for the chance to participate in the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual next year. Everyone taking part will be driving the Ligier LMP3 with identical fixed setups. Each round will feature multiple splits of 30 participants in a 45-minute rolling start race, with each driver required to make at least one pit stop during proceedings. We begin with the Sebring International Raceway, then we move on to Monza, then to Spa-Francorchamps, before we wrap things up in Bahrain. The two highest scoring drivers across the Le Mans Virtual Cup will land a coveted drive together with two special guest drivers at the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual in January 2023.
So there's a little bit more detail on the Le Mans Virtual Cup for you. Let's talk a little bit about the drivers that are in contention then. We were doing the maths a little bit earlier. There's 10 drivers overall in this race. We're going to have the drivers that were in the top 30 in the championship racing. The top 10 in the standings overall are in contention of qualifying in those top 2 positions. Of course, it's going to be the top 2 at the end of this race on points that go through. 10 drivers in contention for that, but realistically the top 4 look in big contention. Those top 4 in contention of taking the title overall, Lewis. After that, it gets a little bit more complicated. We've had some fantastic races along the way though, haven't we?
Yeah, certainly have done. It's been a brilliant run through the season. Of course, Miros, Pelagus, Lana being the two that in 3rd and 4th position. Furthest one outside being Fabian Bala. A couple of big names in there in Juha Mäki-Jopi also. But it's been a great season thus far. And last time out, we were racing at Spa.
And our championship leader, Sean Arnold, will lead us away as we head down towards La Source for the first time. But he's going to be immediately under threat as they hit the brakes for the first time. There you see a brave move there from Sean Arnold to take the racing line. Great start there from Sean Arnold, Lewis.
Yeah, it was quite just a well-timed one, to be perfectly honest, by Johannes Dries. Nearly overtimed it. That's big crash in the background. We'll get back to that in a moment, because look at Varkonyi. He's trying to get around the outside, potentially for the race lead. He's picked off one, nearly picked off the second of Sean Arnold. There's a top 2 in the championship, and that'll be out into the barrier. That's Johannes Dries.
Let's talk us through this incident. What happened here then, Lewis?
Yeah, so Vlad Tokarev's rejoined. He's got a bit of an incident ahead of him. He's gone for a bit of 3 wide. A bit of, that was a very awkward bit of contact. Clearly the rear wheels made contact there.
Let's see if he can do that down the Kemmel straight. A little bit of a wobble, and there goes Roland Schuch. Like Florian Cisse is out. Talk us through this one, Lewis.
Yeah, it's going to be too much curve again. Yeah, it is. And see, that's going to be that is a monster slam.
Who was that on the exit? And one that comes with a lot of meaning in terms of the points.
Is that?
There we go.
It is rain.
The wipers are on. Down towards the final chicane. Are we going to see anyone dive into the pits? Because Johannes Dries was struggling to get that car slowed down. They are really starting to struggle.
there is Sean Arnold. So I think these are in the pit lane down this end of the circuit.
Is that
there they are.
There's Varkonyi.
There's
the
Varkonyi,
yellow.
yeah.
Here they come then. So there comes Varkonyi. He'll still be second. Oh, look at that race there, side by side, coming out the pits there. Whoa, contact for 4th place. Talk us through this replay with Jelle Winsberger.
Yeah, trying to get around the outside of course, car potentially fixed into the rear end. I think misjudged it. That car ahead might still be on slicks.
And Johannes Dries is going to help himself to 3rd place, potentially round the outside at Les Combes. And there we go, move done. And lights to flag victory for him as he comes out of the final corner. Sean Arnold across the line to take his 3rd consecutive win of the season, and he gets 1 step closer to racing in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual. And a 3rd win of the season, a 3rd second place for Zoltan Varkonyi, a 2nd straight 3rd for Johannes Dries, a personal best result for Theo Mercouris, another top 5 finish, the 2nd one of the season for Mia Rose.
Wow, what a race it was. I mean, wet weather playing its part in the Le Mans Virtual Cup. Super, super exciting from start to finish. Loved it.
It was absolutely fantastic. I'm sure we're going to have more of the same, so do sit tight. We're going to have the race at Bahrain, and then we're going to have that qualifying session coming up at Sebring. We couldn't do all of this without the help of our partners, though, and one of those partners is getting ready to release a brand new product. Let's have a look at some of the latest stuff coming out from Thrustmaster. There we go, great stuff from Thrustmaster. We're getting very close to the race. They have had a qualifying session to set the grid for this run at Bahrain. Now, Lewis, of course, we did have the Bahrain race in the Le Mans Virtual Series, but that was a bit of an exclusive to the Le Mans Virtual Series drivers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When did the track get released for the Le Mans Virtual Cup drivers? Exactly.
Very recently.
How long have they had to practice on this?
Can't remember the exact day off the top of my head, but it's really not very long at all. They've had to get up to speed very, very fast. It's a circuit we're all kind of familiar with. We understand the way around. I mean, you can see it behind me, 5.4 kilometres, 15 turns around it, which we've known for a long time. So, you know, it's not too much of like a step into the unknown, but not that long for them to get used to it in these kind of cars. Meanwhile, they've had a little bit of knowledge from the Le Mans Virtual Series to see how they've gotten used to it and see what the cars react and what it looks like on rFactor 2. But brilliant to have it on the platform, and it's another one to add to the collection of large Grand Prix style circuits on the platform. Yeah,
of course, we're used to it from the World Endurance Championship as well. So for those of you new, it's going to be a 45-minute race. They're going to have to do a pit stop during it as well. Now, unlike last season it was the top 2 at the end of this race qualified through. This year it's a little bit different. It's going to be top 2 in points, and we will keep you up to speed. For Sean Arnold, who's leading the way in the championship, a top 25 finish will secure him his place in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual next year. And for Zoltan Varkonyi, all he really needs to do is get in the top 10. For the likes of Mia Rhodes and Paula Gaslana, they need some wins, and to hope that the likes of Zoltan Varkonyi and Sean Arnold finish a little lower down the order. But myself and Lewis will keep you posted as the race is going on in those situations. But as we saw from the highlights of that Spa race, anything can happen.
Absolutely, and Bahrain being a circuit slightly into the unknown, it means that we might see some crazy stuff. Anyone who remembers the Le Mans Virtual Series, of course, a few months ago, it was one of the best races that we have seen. Traffic did play a big part in that one, but I think, Chris, we're about ready to go and see some race cars on the track.
I think we are. We're going to get ready to go very, very shortly. They're going to be getting ready to go off. What's your predictions ahead of this one? Here you can see the cars gridding up behind us. Bahrain, of course, this is LMP3 cars as well, so a little bit different to when we raced here in the Le Mans Virtual Series in our prototypes and our GTs. What do you make of LMP3s going around Bahrain? I don't know if you've had time to actually take part in one of these yourself, but how do you think the challenge is for
I've driven the LMP3 before, but not around here. corners like 9 and 10 are going to be an absolute nightmare in this car, as well as even the back section where you're coming up through 11, 12 and up over the hill. The car will lose quite a bit of grip going round there. But I've got to say, from this qualifying session, we've got the order just ahead of us. Mia Rose was starting this one from pole position where she needed to.
Now, right, let's go through. So the contenders, Sean Arnold leads on 195 points. He starts this race in 6th place. Zoltan Varkonyi, who is 2nd in the standings, he's on 180 points. He starts 8th. Mia Rose, who is 3rd, a win for her, and Zoltan finishing 11th or lower would see her qualify through. As Lewis said, she starts on pole, so this is looking very, very good. As for Paul Auguste Lana, I believe he starts a little bit further down the order. Mikhail Leroux is going to be alongside Mia Rose on the front row of the grid, so that a very good result for him. He is one of the 10 drivers who is still within a possibility of qualifying through here, so a great result for him. The likes of Juha Mäki up there as well, and another driver who could very possibly get through as well, as you can see them on the pace lap.
Yeah, Juha Mäki is going to be one to keep an eye on from that 5th position. Going to go all out in a race like this. Same with the likes of Sido Vaya, being those slightly more outside chances in Mäki. I've got to say, Mia Rose, focus on one thing in this. Don't focus on where Sean Arnold Varkonyi are. It's irrelevant. Focus on winning, focusing on crossing the line in that 1st position, nailing the pit lane, which I will say, the pit lane around here is much trickier than people think. There isn't that much reference coming into pit lane. I suspect we'll see a couple of cars speeding in the pit lane. There is Zoltan Varkonyi in that yellow car. You'll notice Sean Arnold will be in the Team Ford Silla livery if you want to help pick them apart.
We can see them making our way down towards us. Mia Rose and Mikhail Leroux on the front row. That's a good spot. Fabian Barla doesn't look to have got away, but Mia Rose, who is trying to chase down a place in the top 2 of the Le Mans Virtual Cup and a place in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual next year, has got herself in the best possible position. Zoltan Varkonyi, that means he moves up to 7th place as the cars make their way down the start-finish straight here at Bahrain, and we are go then for the Le Mans Virtual Cup finale. Mia Rose is going to lead us down towards turn number 1, but for how much longer? Because that looks like Juha Mäki it might be. Is it one of the cars trying to dive down the inside? We were almost 3 wide going into there. Oh no, an immediate spinner. Yopi has spun straight away there. Juha Mäki spinning immediately, and Mia Rose under even more pressure. I think that's Sido Vaya trying to get down the inside in the 37. It is not quite able to get through, and Zoltan Varkonyi in the orange colours has flown up the order into 3rd place there.
Absolutely incredible start from Zoltan Varkonyi to have worked his way up into that 3rd position. There was a wing that went flying on the start finish, although I don't know as to who it belonged to. Great start from Sido Vaya to be attacking down into that 1st corner, nearly taking over the race lead, but a massive shame for Juha Mäki. I said he was going to go on the attack, so there was not going to be anything left on the table, and that certainly was the case. They'd have to say, after looking at that, maybe he hopes there was something left on the table, because it certainly wasn't any positions. Down to 28th now overall, and look at the lead already that Mia Rose is building going into turn 11.
Sean Arnold has gone up to 5th place there, so a good result there for Sean Arnold in the early stages. Gets himself up into 5th, only needs a top 25 to secure this. Talk us through this one then, Lewis. I think this is where we're going to see Zoltan's great start, but of course the unfortunate start for Mäki as well.
Yeah, he's on the outside here. It's 3 wide, getting squeezed out a little bit by Rose. I've got to say, you're not fully alongside there. The 3 wide, you're always going to get contact like that when you're asking for it. When you're on the inside, you're getting squeezed over a little bit. They're already 2 wide ahead of it. You're adding to the scenario. I get it, we're all racing drivers and whatnot, but still, that was maybe a little bit too much. Sean Arnold having a little bit of pressure on the rear end as Bala, I think, has returned into the pit lane. But you can see their 4th car in shot. That is Sean Arnold, who's actually just got past Leroux. Roland Schuch also directly behind. Incident between 16 and 19 noted. The 16, I believe, is Juha Mäki, and the 19 is Mia Rose.
making their way down the start-finish straight. As I think you were right, 3 into 1 just didn't go there, and a bit of curb taking on the inside for Maki Yopi. Just had nowhere else to go, as Varkonyi having a little look down the inside there as Sido Vaya didn't quite get through. Zoltan Varkonyi, this is good enough for him to progress through into the top 2. So overall, this would get him that top 2 spot in the championship that he needs to get his place in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual next year. They make their way now up towards the hairpin, and Mia Rose, this is the best possible result she can get. All she can do is go and win this race and hope Zoltan Varkonyi runs into a little bit of trouble along the way. And Sean Arnold in 4th place there, closing in on Zoltan Varkonyi a little bit further back. Some more battles going on a little bit further down the top 10. I think this is the likes of 7th down to 11th place, all fighting away with each other. And Theo Mercouris just behind De Campo here. This is your battle for 8th and 9th we're watching. The first of the cars is De Campo, and the second of the cars is Theo Mercouris, who was one of the stars of the last round at Spa. Had a brilliant result, climbing all the way up to get a top 4 finish. So we'll keep an eye on Theo in this one.
And you did send him my way to ask about some settings advice, I do believe. He certainly came my way. Yeah, apparently so. He came my way anyway to ask about some adjustments on settings. There was someone going for a bit of a slide in the background. Not sure who that was. Might have been Slovenach, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, I think feeling slightly more confident now behind the wheel, which if he's feeling slightly more confident after how well he was doing last round, I'm terrified, Theo Mercouris, because that's very impressive. De Campo does get past Binsbergen, though, going down to the first corner.
I was going to say, I've seen you in a rig, and I don't know why on earth I would have sent him your way for advice, to be honest.
Saying that? Wait.
There we go.
That's going to be a big fight in the commentary booth.
We'll settle this when we have the one-lap challenge next round. We're watching Sean Arnold in 4th place. I think if you're Sean Arnold, this would be a good enough result, really. All he needs to do is go and finish this race. There's no need for him to fight. But then again, we're looking at a driver who has won every race so far. Remember, these are the top 30 drivers in the championship. Unlike all the other rounds where it has been open for anyone to go out and qualify, this has been different. This is just for the top 30 drivers alone in the championship. Here we have a replay coming up of Juha Mäki-Jopi. Yeah,
it's going to be down into the first corner again, so you'll see it again from the off-board. Not really alongside. I mean, is alongside when they get to the apex, fair enough. But you've the way I feel it with this one is you've got to it. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say it was a terrible rejoin. That's not great, though. The rejoin's not as bad as it looks. He was way off the circuit, but I mean, it still wasn't pretty. But when you're making it 3 wide like that, you accept the risk that it's 50-50. You're either going to keep going and you're going to be a hero and take the lead, or you're going for a spin. There is not any middle ground there. But you have to accept that risk that you're asking for trouble, making it 3 wide through what is an incredibly tight pinch point. And either the car on the inside, being Juha Mäki-Jopi, is going for a spin, or Sido Vaya on the outside is being sent straight off the track. Someone is going to pay a price in that.
Absolutely. See them making their way now down the start-finish straight. Jelle Binsbergen under a little bit of pressure here for 9th place. As we come down towards turn number 1, almost a dive down the inside there. Not quite able to get through. Binsbergen holds on for the time being. Jelle Binsbergen putting in a good performance, running 13th in the standings. He's not in a position to be able to qualify for a top 2 spot, but nevertheless, that's a pretty good run to potentially set up for a good run in the Le Mans Virtual Cup next season. If you have raced in the Le Mans Virtual Cup and you are watching this round, then we do thank you for your participation in the series. We do hope to see all of you back participating again next time. It's been a fantastic season. We are now going to decide the top 2 and who are going to go through and race in that 24-hour. Zoltan Varkonyi we ride on board with, and it's quite prominent that he's just not in any rush here to get past Sido Vaya. He is happy to sit in 3rd place, it seems. One thing we've seen throughout the season, Lewis, is think we might see Zoltan Varkonyi take a fuel-saving strategy. What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with that one. A bit of fuel saving using the slipstream of the car ahead, and a bit of tyre saving as well. Tyres will be a big deal around it, particularly on the rears. You burn a lot coming out of the first corner, obviously out of 9 and 10 as you're leaving there because you're loading up the tyre. But even around that back section of the circuit, as you're turning it in, I know you're leaning on the front quite a bit, but you are sliding the rear end around in this kind of car. It is a lively beast, I'll say it that way, when it comes to driving these LMP3s. So I would suspect Varkonyi's going to play a slightly long game. So will Sean Arnold. I would not be worried if you're a Varkonyi or Arnold fan right now. The potential of them finishing first and second is still extremely high, but do not count out Celia Vaya and, of course, Mia Rose, who is at the front and flying right now. Mia Rose has impressed us a lot this season, considering that she's not really an R Factor 2 driver properly, right? More of an ACC specialist and elsewhere in the sim racing world. R Factor 2's not really been it. However, right now, this season has looked absolutely fantastic. Huese, by the way, I think has had an issue. We've seen some pretty aggressive sends on both Mercurius and Binsbergen. I think one has bitten a little bit too hard for that number 98.
We've just talking at Cedo Vaya there. This has been a brilliant result for him as well. Best result of 7th so far this season. And Cedo, who runs 9th in the championship, but only 6 points back from Juha Mäki-Jopi, who's 5th. So this would really move him up the standings. Yes, it might not put him up into the top 2, but nevertheless, it would certainly move him up a long way in the Le Mans Virtual Cup standings. We've got a yellow flag out in sector 2, but only very briefly. Maybe a half spin for someone somewhere. A good lead this for Mia Rose, though, 2.3 seconds. But behind, are they just saving tyres and fuel, as Lewis said? Will this change hands when we get to pit stops? When in the race do we expect pit stops, Lewis?
Like I say, I'm not 100% sure. Around here, I would say later than as late as you can go. Again, you want to take that fuel tank out as far as possible. Again, be stationary in the pit lane for as little as possible. And I don't think track position is king. That's our Roland Schutz, who's into the barrier in the background and has gone for a spin, paying the price potentially at rears being overheated.
And someone else did it in the background as well.
Binsbergen, 10. No, it was. Oh, actually, no, I don't know.
Two of them went there, didn't they?
Fidele will be the other one. As I was saying, I don't necessarily think track position is king, because you can make passes like this. Eureka Slovanac, who's had a top 10 this season, of course, in that first round of the championship, straight down the inside of Jelle Binsbergen to get up into 8th position. You can make those passes, so you can technically pit earlier, I guess, but I'd still want to take it all the way out. I want to save as much fuel as possible, and that means it'd be roughly between 20 and 15 minutes to go. We'll see a car come into pit lane.
Yeah, and it's just the fuel you're putting in. Yeah. Of course, it's not tyres, so you have to save those tyres, and that's how easy it is to make a mistake in the Le Mans Virtual Cup, just overcooking it out of the final corner and going for a spin. That's how easy it is for someone like Zoltan Varkonyi and Sean Arnold to throw this one away, especially as we get deeper into the race. The pressure on them is going to rise. There is Roland Schutz, so dropped to 11th place, now has some work to do if he was trying to save tyres in any way a little bit earlier before that final corner, where he certainly wouldn't have been. Roland Schutz is now going to have some recovery work to do, and is just behind Titus here to trying to get back into the top 10.
And will have ruined his tyres in that spin. When you do that, you're overheated. You've got to spend a few laps bringing them back into the temperature window. You'll have removed a lot of the percentage, so a lot of the actual rubber grip component of the tyre. A lot of that will have gone. You'll probably have some pretty sizable flat spots, which you can absolutely feel in the wheel on R Factor 2. So, yeah, this is not going to be fun. You were saying no tyre changes. I think we might see one or two make a tyre change around here more so than anywhere else, purely based on the fact of the circuits that we've been to. This is number one for me, at least, when it comes to tyre wear on the circuit. You can see just touches the curb a little bit, does Roland Schutz, and it just drops a touch.
Roland Schutz just having a spin there, but is looking to get back into 10th place here, looking to get into the top 10. Having a look down the inside there, not quite able to make the move. And Roland Schutz for now stays in 11th place. So, 33 minutes left. Currently, the top 2 finishes in the championship will be Sean Arnold, Zoltan Varkonyi, but Mia Rose is on to break that winning record of Sean Arnold and has extended her lead to over 3 seconds now, running very well. Sido Vaya on for his first podium finish of the season as well.
I did see a bit of 3 and 4 wide behind this. This must be 16th, 17th, 18th. Obviously, Hueze moving back up the order. Lemoyne and de Koning in there as well. I think even potentially with a bit of Miras and Zampini. There was a big battle pack coming off of turn 4. I've got to say, for Mia Rose, I had this question, or I had this point when I was commentating on Jerne Simičić once, and there was a few drivers that were pulling away from Jerne Simičić in this championship.
Ooh,
and I thought,
there we go.
What are they doing wrong? Because you don't outpace Sean Arnold that much. Don't mind. Miras, to be fair, that was not bad.
Forgot which way the track went momentarily. Jose Miras driving the opposite way for a second. Just that's another example of someone getting it all wrong out of the corner. So seems more than ever we are seeing drivers suffer with tyres. Are we going to see a lot of tyre changes then? Is this an example of that, would you say?
I'm not sure if we are. I mean, let's say, I don't know how bad they are. I just know that this track is brutal when it comes to tyres. But it's just brutal on the car anyway, right? So percentage-wise, and what you're actually seeing, what you're feeling behind the wheel, you might actually be fine if you're driving within yourself, like what we're seeing from, to be fair, Miros, from Varkonyi, from Arnold, from Sido. All these drivers that are driving within themselves, they should be fine on their tyres. We'll take a look at what happened to Antonio Fedele. Of course, Roland Schuch had his issue just ahead of this. You might see the final parts of it. The 13 spins ahead of him.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate there for Fedele. Wrong
13,
place.
Michael Leroux.
Yeah, that's a big person to spin as well. Michael Leroux, 7th in the standings on 155 points. So some of the heavy hitters in the Le Mans Virtual Cup not going along very well so far. To say De Campo's doing a good job up there in 6th place. He's closing in on the top 5 as well. And also Maki Yopi as well is doing a good job with his recovery so far, up into the top 20. So we'll keep an eye on how Juha Mäki-Jopi does. But we are on board with Zoltan Varkonyi. The gap between Sido Vaya, who you can see that's just struggling there with the tyres. Another example of it. Is this an example of, would you say, this is, of course, a track that only was released recently for these drivers. Do you think this is something they haven't been able to get used to yet, would you say, Lewis? Or is it just the track itself?
I think it's just the track itself.
We'll come back to that. Let's look back at the race start then, shall we?
Yeah, indeed. Obviously, we had that big lunge down into the first corner from Sido Vaya. It was an absolutely massive second. Got to say, respect to it. And then, of course, the big moment, Juha Mäki-Jopi to the inside. To be fair, through the rest of the pack, it all looked pretty clean. Here's another look at what happened to Zoltan Varkonyi. Inside, 3 wide. No thanks.
Yeah, it's just never going to work, is it? Not enough room for 3 cut. Now we had a yellow flag, and was that because of?
No, I think that was
a replay.
That was on the. It was still on the replay.
There we go.
Do not panic.
There we go. For a moment there. Right, Zoltan Varkonyi's gone past 2nd, so that's something that did change whilst we were away. And Sean Arnold is going to try and go with him there. They're side by side for 3rd place. Sean Arnold to the left of our picture. You can see him just trying to get down the inside. Not quite able to make the place, but forces a mistake there from Sido Vaya, and Sean Arnold goes through to take the position.
Again, Sean Arnold not racing from home. He is over in Germany at the moment at Simexpo. There is the overtake from Zoltan Varkonyi straight down the inside to take over that second. There's a bit of kick of oversteer off the corner, which is what slowed Sido Vaya, of course, into the clutches of Sean Arnold, who's now up into that 3rd spot. As things stand, right at this very moment, if the race were to end, as we've said time and time again, Zoltan Varkonyi and Sean Arnold become teammates in a month's time for the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual, with drivers who we do not know yet. We're not just egging you on that. We literally don't know yet.
Let's find out. Are you
it'll be me and you. No, it'll be me and you.
Wow. Well, I wish Martin Haven and Ben Constantinos the best of luck. 24 hours just empty. There we go.
They can replace us.
Absolutely no, they can't.
I've said that we need to have, and I'm going to say this on broadcast, that we need to have an hour of everyone in the studio. Everyone needs to do an hour of commentary on the Le Mans Virtual. I can't tell you what people said to me after I suggested that, but it wasn't PG.
Didn't go down very well.
No, it didn't.
I'm for it.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be.
I'm for it.
It would the
early hours.
mega bands.
It can be after hours, you know.
We're getting commentary on our ear from our broadcast director. Good old Tom. Oh dear. Nah, stick to your day job. It's fine. Mia Rose then.
How about we swap? You can swap places. You can go and direct it, and they can come and commentate it.
That would be an utter disaster, and I'm all for it.
We really are going off topic now, aren't we? Let's get back to the race. This is quite a big one. Battle for 12th place we're now watching. Michael Leroux just ahead of us had that half spin earlier, which was then saved by Fedeli, who sadly found himself then in the wall because of it. So an unfortunate incident there for Fedeli. Michael Leroux, who is running 7th in the standings. Did we see Johannes Dry in this one? Or
don't believe so.
Was he unable to take part? That's a real shame.
I think Paula Gislana also we've not seen.
So that's a real shame. We lost a couple of drivers there, unfortunately, who were some of the top runners in the championship, but a well done to them both on fantastic seasons up until this point. As we watch battles just outside of the top 10. Are we getting a little bit closer now towards pit stop windows? Once we get to the final 15 to 20 minutes, that's when we could start to see pit stops. And, well, why not go for an early stop? Juha Mäki-Jopi is going to come in first. That's probably got to be one of the earliest pit stops we've seen all season. Yeah,
you wouldn't really want to stop at this time normally, because essentially if you're not going to change tyres, if you want to change tyres, you want to change them as early as possible. Whereas if you're going to stay on the same tyres, which I do suspect the majority of the front of the field will, I think someone will take a gamble, but for the most part in front they will stay on the same tyres. You want to pit as late as possible, because if you pit early, like now, and you don't change tyres, you're putting a lot more weight back onto the tyres that are already worn. Whereas if you wait for 15 minutes left to go, 20 minutes left to go, you're only then putting in 15 minutes worth of fuel as Lemoyne under a lot of pressure here towards the just outside of the top 20. Nardi over the rear end of Tyrrell directly ahead of that. And of course, just the one retirement from the race, and Fabian Bala, who didn't make the race start either.
That's a real shame. 10th in the standings coming into this. A great season for Fabian Bala, so well done to him on a great season up until this point. A shame we didn't get to see him compete in the race. Would have been great to see him having qualified up in the top 10. But I've got to say, for Juha Mäki-Jopi, that's got to be a tyre change, surely, seeing how everyone is really struggling on tyres.
It didn't feel that long, though.
Ooh,
whoa,
there we go.
Well, I mean, we're having a great example there of how much everyone is struggling on tyres. These are good drivers, by the way, but they are that's not they are genuinely good. They're just having to struggle with this car.
I say, if that was me in the car, I wouldn't see any track. Basically, it would just be all gravel.
I do hope.
Whoa, there we go.
Wow,
really struggling, aren't they, out there? This is honestly a real test. A great track to end the season on, it has to be said. This has been probably the most toughest test for the drivers so far. Out front, though, Mia Rose dealing with it incredibly well. 3.6 seconds to the good of Zoltan Varkonyi. Over 5 seconds clear of championship leader Sean Arnold.
Yeah, and I know there will be some people even on this grid or even watching thinking, right, okay, if we're seeing a lot of those midfield runners struggling, why aren't we seeing the leaders struggling that much? And there's a really good reason for it. Because they're driving within themselves. They're not pushing the limit. As much as they are going quick, They are coming in consistently, hitting the apexes and not going too much. Mikel Leroux comes into the pit lane, and we'll see what happens to Yuris Nardi with that spin off of the T8 hairpin, just out wide, clips the curb. That's the thing, the track around here, as much as the tyres bite, the track bites. You've got the final corner here where you've got that serrated curb. You've got a bit of a drop-off just before the end of it. If you get into that gap, it will spin to a point where you cannot capture it. It's not going to be a nice little slide off the corner or to initiate a drift. If you touch that in the wrong way, you are gone. There is no saving it.
Here we can see the battle. Cyril there in 19th place, Lemoyne in 20th place. Two drivers who we were watching. Leroux has retired, yes, correct, from the race. So another one of the big contenders DNF'd. That's a real shame.
Just came into the pit lane, didn't he?
Yeah.
Thinking maybe pulled the plug?
Must have had.
So I think Leroux would have had pretty significant damage after that Fedele incident into the final corner. As long as he had that slide and then Fedele banged straight into what was essentially his front right. Could have been that, and any damage that you have around here, I promise you, any tyre issues that you're having will be exemplified. There's Mia Rose with a couple of snaps coming up to the back of Juha Mäki-Jopi as the biggest snap that we've seen so far, but I don't think it will be too much of a major for Mia Rose. Like I say, just those couple of slides are fine as long as you drive within yourself, as long as you've got the lap time within yourself to back off and to drive consistently and smoothly as De Campo comes into the pit lane.
Yeah, well, here we can see. You can see Mia Rose is still having to wrestle with the car. Sean Arnold making his way through the first corner. Smooth as you like through there, but as you said, it's sometimes harder, isn't it, to drive within yourself than it is to push the car. Matteo De Campo in the pit lane. Good race for him so far, running in 6th place when he came into the pit, so it's been a good drive for De Campo. Looking back through the results, I don't think we've seen him in the top 10 before, so this would be a personal best result to finish the season on.
I think I know why. He's burning out his tyres to get into it, because I'm pretty sure that was a tyre change for De Campo. So we'll keep an eye on De Campo. There is Miras, who I believe is up on the jacks as well. If you'll see when the pit stop's finished, it would the car would essentially drop down onto the ground and then be released. I believe that might have been a time. It might have just been 2. I'm not 100% sure as to what you can and can't do when it comes to the titles. I'm pretty sure you can change fronts or rears, not have too much of a problem. You have to change the full set. And around here, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing an awful lot of rear tyre struggling, not so much on the front. So if I were to change any tyres, bang, those rears are gone.
Well, let's ride on board then with Sean Arnold for a bit, shall we, Lewis? We've got coming up to the final corner, and this a corner where we've seen a lot of drivers struggling. Talk us through this.
Yeah, indeed. The final section, technically it is 2 corners, but we all know it as one, 14 and 15, and then out onto the start-finish straight. Like you say, nailing that corner is paramount. It's such a long start-finish straight. Slipstream's going to play a key factor, as we've seen a few times this race. We've seen quite a few moves down into T1. But that final, honestly, whilst you look at it on track, you think, oh, it's about 100 degrees. The actual main corner at 14 is actually bang on 90. But it is so much harder than the angle looks. It is a very tricky corner.
We're on board here with Lemoyne. You can just see him coming up to the final couple of corners now. Oh, and ahead, you can see a big moment there ahead for Cyril. Julien Lemoyne now makes his way down towards the final corner.
They are not having a good time in this car, I can say that.
They want this race to be over, I think, and knows Cyril thinking about the pit lane there. It was almost as if he was trying to drag Lemoyne with him, and the fact that Lemoyne wasn't going kept Cyril out on the circuit. Some of them thinking about that move into pit lane, but not going for it as of yet. And with that, an update between the 2 leaders. The gap is starting to come down as well. Varkonyi is now starting to close in. Last time we had a look at Mia Rose, it seemed she was slightly struggling with the tyres. and that has been reflected in the gap between the two leaders.
Yeah, it came down 7/10 over the previous lap. Mia Rose set at 154.3 and Zoltan Varkonyi set at 153.6. But I've got to say, looking at some of these times, I'm not sure if it was a bad lap from Rose or a great lap from Varkonyi. And I promise you, I can't tell you, because Mia Rose, 154.3. Sean Arnold, 154.1. Cedar Vire, 154.1. The lap times look okay. I think it might have been her navigating Yuan Makiapi. Sean Arnold into the pit lane in the background. 18 minutes left to go. So Arnold, the first of the big bunch to bite.
Yep, Sean Arnold into the pit lane. Championship leader, of course, coming in. 18 minutes left on the clock. Zoltan Varkonyi, I don't think he'll be in a rush to come in just yet, because he's starting to close in. Titus came in as well, so 2 of the top 10 coming in to the pit lane that time. And Sean Arnold, there was certainly no tyre change there, because already heading back down to pit exit.
Yeah, it was the actual stationary time, I think, was like 18 seconds shorter. The De Campo got a bit of traffic on the pit exit, though, as he will rejoin the race, getting back into it in 11th spot. I'm not sure who that was that was struggling on the pit exits there, but there was certainly someone having a bit of an issue. Might have been Luca Vianney, who's running down towards the back of the field. Back on board with Zoltan Varkonyi at the moment. That car directly ahead is Juha Mäki-Jopi, of course, who is a lap down at the moment after completing that pit stop much earlier on in the race. I said 2.5 seconds ahead is Mia Rose. It came down another 3/10 on that lap, so there might be something going on here.
Yep, Zoltan Varkonyi. Sometimes when you're getting near to a pit stop, that's when you just start to throw everything at it. Zoltan Varkonyi. See Mia Rose now there up in the distance, and that another thing as a driver, once you can, particularly through sequences of corners, once you can always see the driver ahead, that tends to just give you a little bit, that extra 1/10 of a second to push through the corners. And Zoltan Varkonyi catching some traffic now through the last corner. Will we see Mia Rose come in? No, Zoltan Varkonyi is heading in though, and that is going to be Varkonyi into pit lane.
Yeah, smart move. Got a little bit of traffic ahead. Just bail early, come into the pit lane again, looking for about a 7-second stop to match what Sean Arnold did behind Thomas Fack. Thea Mercurius also come in. It means that Mia Rose has been absolutely superb when it comes to the fuel mileage. I would suspect she's going to be into the pit lane this time by. But the more you're struggling on tyres, technically, the less fuel you use. So let's see if Varkonyi, longer stop for Varkonyi. I think this is tyres for Varkonyi.
Right, let's see where Sean Arnold comes out then in relation to everyone else. As Lewis said, it looks like Varkonyi has gone for a tyre change. Has Vac gone for a tyre change, or was it just Varkonyi, do you think? Let's see when they come out who is where.
I think it might have been a timing bug on Varkonyi. I know the timer is still going, but I believe Varkonyi's back out on track. You can kind of see, yeah, it's directly ahead. So it's just a timing bug.
Just a time. Well, there we go. Just a little bit of a glitch there momentarily, but Varkonyi still ahead. See of Sean Arnold. Some traffic ahead of them, or drivers yet to pit. But Zoltan Varkonyi comes out ahead of Arnold. Did we have any changes behind? I don't think so. No major changes. Remains roughly as it was. Really, we now keep our eyes towards Mia Rose when she pits to see where she comes out in relation to these two, who, as Lewis said a little bit earlier in the broadcast, are set to become teammates in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual in January. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic, the third running of the event. Who are they going to be teamed up with? We're yet to find out that news. Our last winners, our first ever winners, were teamed up with Juan Pablo Montoya and his son Sebastian Montoya, who did some racing in the FIA Formula 3 Championship this year. Let's see who the winners this year, who could be Sean Arnold and Zoltan Varkonyi, are to be teamed up with. Right, Mia Rose into the pits. Let's see how good exactly she's done with fuel. Does the car go up onto the jacks? We won't expect it to. As Lewis said, if it does that, then we know it's a tyre change, but we should expect her heading down the pit exit very shortly. because Sean Arnold and Zoltan Varkonyi are already heading down. There she comes. Mia Rose is back out onto the circuit, and it looks like she's going to keep the race lead. But how far ahead of Varkonyi and Arnold will she be? She makes her way to the first hairpin, and that's very good work there from Mia Rose on fuel. She's managed to keep a good lead over Varkonyi and Arnold, who now have some work to do. Fantastic driving from Mia Rose.
Yeah, I thought her stop was actually significantly longer, but I think I think Varkonyi's and Rose were actually quite similar. Stationary time that looked around about 8.6 seconds. It was Sean Arnold that had the shorter one at 7.1, who's obviously, I think Cito Vaya was also around about the 7-second margin. So they've actually kind of, the group itself as an entirety between the top four has actually gotten closer post pit stop, but it's still that gap between Rose and Varkonyi remains as it was going into the pit lane sequence, courtesy of those two having around about 8.5 second stops, about 1.5 slower than the two that are chasing.
Now Sean Arnold, you wouldn't want to get into a battle with Varkonyi here.
There's no need to.
There's no need, is there? If it ends in tears, then that could be both of you out of the 24-hour.
Unless, now this is obviously not going to. Let's just say that Sean Arnold didn't like Zoltan Varkonyi very much. Now this is all hypothetical.
What are you throwing into the equation?
What if he wants to team up with Mia Rose? Just make sure that Varkonyi doesn't finish inside the top 10. Boom, got Mia Rose as a teammate. Obviously, that is not going to happen, because Sean Arnold doesn't really matter. Sean Arnold's got to finish inside the top 25, and right now that just means finishing on the lead lap, which, I mean, is likely, but it depends how big the wreck is, so it's fine. But no, I
highly doubt.
I don't think anything silly is going to happen. Sean Arnold's a very calculated driver. He's actually been very, very good this season, let's not forget.
He's won every race.
Yeah.
Zoltan Varkonyi's finished second in every race, so in that sense, those two deserve it more than anyone else, really. But, of course, Mia Rose has stepped up in this race, and if she's to go and take a race win, and one of those two is to slip up, then she would have earned her place in that top two with a fantastic drive in this last round and a consistent performance all the way throughout the season to get herself up into third place in the championship. She has very much been the best of the rest in the Le Mans Virtual Cup this season.
And you've got to say, any other teams that are looking at the Le Mans Virtual Cup, we know quite a few do. You're looking at that and you're thinking, right, Mia Rose has been consistently up there inside the top 10, challenging up there, wins the final race, or again, that's getting 11 minutes ahead of ourselves, but leading comfortably, pole position, and holding your own against Varkonyi, against Sean Arnold. If you're a team, you're looking at that and thinking, yeah, mate, got to get her in the car for Le Mans Virtual. Absolutely super driver thus far, but 10 minutes left to go. Certainly isn't done yet. She is being caught at the moment by Zoltan Varkonyi. It's come down roughly half a second since we last checked, down to 2.5.
And the same could be said for Cito Vaya as well. Top 10 in the championship. This will put him probably up to around the top 5 in the standings overall. It will be his best result of the season, and he is keeping Varkonyi and Arnold incredibly honest in this last race. There he is in the white colours, just behind Sean Arnold. Brilliant driving from him so far. Thomas Vach as well in 5th place, and we've got Mikuris, Slovinac, Binsbergen, Titus and De Campo. Let's keep an eye on what he can do. He did do a tyre change, we believe, so I'm interested to see how Matteo De Campo runs in comparison to everyone else. He hasn't got a huge way to go if he's going to catch Binsbergen, but we'll have to keep an eye on his lap times over these last few laps.
Absolutely. Tyre's definitely struggling, by the way, on Mia Rose. He came down 7/10 that lap. As we look at Titus, who has been caught by De Campo and is obviously not going to fight.
Straight by.
I'm not sure where De Campo can get to, but
what's his last lap time?
It did not count because he exceeded track limits, so that's helpful. You only have so many of those, by the way, before you get a drive through penalties, so you've got to be careful. Genuinely, on what I'm seeing pace-wise, could probably get inside the top 10, that's where he's running at the moment, but no, could probably get
good news,
potentially even up to the back of Slovinac and Mikuris. There isn't very long to go, and I think that's maybe a little bit ambitious, but a 1.5 to 2 seconds lap on fresh tyres is not super crazy. around here. I think it's a little bit too much. I think we'll most likely catch Binsberg and get past and then settle for 8th, but I wouldn't necessarily rule out.
He'll want nothing more. Well, he'll want nothing less than 6, because that's where he was. He was ahead of Mercurius. That's where he came into the pit, so that's where he'll want to get back to, I'm sure. But he's going to have to put in a lot of work and some fantastic lap times and hope that the tyres on the other cars really fall off dramatically in these last few laps. Speaking of tyres falling off, it seems they are starting to do so on the car of Mia Rose. The gap is 2.1 seconds, and it looks like it's going to come down even further as we make our way around the final corner. Zoltan Varkonyi and Sean Arnold have done very good with their tyres, as has Sido Vaya, because he's holding on to the pair of them as we now make our way down the start-finish straight. 2.2 seconds is now the gap.
Last lap time from Mia Rose was a 54.3, plays a 54.4 for Zoltan Varkonyi, so it goes up a 10th for Mia Rose. Of course, Arnold and Sido Vaya both went 0.2 faster than Varkonyi. The slipstream will help on that one, so I wouldn't be too worried. But yeah, for Mia Rose fans, again, it's okay. It's not ideal. It's a little bit concerning. We'll just have to sit on the edge of our seat and enjoy the final few laps of the Le Mans Virtual Cup of 2022 as we ride on board with Eureka Slovinac.
If you're here for qualifying for the 500 miles of Sebring, do sit tight. It will be coming up directly after this race, but before that we will, as Lewis said, enjoy the last 7.5 minutes of what has been a brilliant season of the Le Mans Virtual Cup. 2 drivers very much have dominated it throughout. It looks like a third now is going to go on and take the last win of the season, but the 2 behind her look like the 2 that are going to go through and become teammates in the 24-hour in January, and they very much deserve to be. Eureka Slovinac, we watch now, running in 7th place, battling with Theo Mercurius there for 6th place. Good drive this from Slovinac, who was in the top 10 back at the season opener in Sebring. Hasn't really featured inside the top 10 since, so this would be a personal best result for Eureka Slovinac.
Yeah, looking great at the moment, trying to put pressure onto Theo Mercurius. Got to say, I think De Campo, looking at pace right now, will be in attacking range of Binsbergen in the next lap or so. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Let's see what happens to Jose Lopez coming down into the final corner. A bit too much curve on the inside and taking a slightly tight line, getting onto the loud pedal a little bit too heavy, and it goes for a spin. It's not the first one we've seen all day, and I still, even with 6 minutes left to go, don't think it's going to be the last.
No.
4 laps to go.
2 seconds the gap. Varkonyi, has he got enough left in those tyres? Has he got enough left in the tank to go and close down Mia Rose? 2 seconds. So far, she's managing this race very well. She's let the gap come down a little bit, but she's still kept it at just over 2 seconds. Zoltan Varkonyi, it's over to him now to do the hard work and close it down. We've got a yellow flag out somewhere, and that won't be the first time. Schuch has had more trouble, and that's a real shame for Schuch. Not the end to the season that he would have hoped for. It's been a tough race for Schuch.
Just a 3rd retirement, though, goes down into the list with Leroux and Bala, showing that despite this being a very, very difficult testing challenge, it shows how the quality of drivers in the Le Mans Virtual Cup. Here's Jelle Binsbergen, then, who's under pressure from Mattia De Campo. Coming down the mid-stretch, back-stretch, however you want to call it, of course, down into turn 11. De Campo with superior grip, looks to the inside, commits to it, goes for a bit of a half spin, does De Campo. Jelle Binsbergen says, ah, lol, get some of that. Goodbye, as he'll clear off into the distance, and Titus also comes back through. Yeah, that wasn't really on for Mattia De Campo. Should have been more patient, because that move was almost a guarantee later on in the race, just purely based on the fact of the tyre grip.
Yeah. Has given himself a lot of work to do now. It was never going to work, was it? Mattia De Campo there now has to do all the hard work over again, and only has just over 4 minutes to do it in. You can see realistically he wouldn't have gone any further, so Mattia De Campo could have done a little bit, could have done with a bit more patience in that one.
Can still get it.
He can still get it, as you said, but he's going to have to do it all over again. Mattia De Campo, is he going to go for that move for 9th place? No. We ride on board with him now, and he is now behind Titus, but that half spin would have not done the tyres very good either. So Mattia De Campo now has a little bit of work to do, and it's going to be a little bit difficult for him. Talk us through this one then, Lewis.
Yes, half-hearted, that's the problem. Looks, doesn't commit. Most important thing to do if you're going to go for a move is to look and absolutely commit for it. De Campo did not do that. Let's see what happened to Roland Schutz then down into the first corner. Let's just see. Comes through turn 2, rear end, let's grip, and then quits to the pit lane. Obviously, tyres saying no thank you in that race. Fidele, by the way, back into the pit lane. It's a big shame there for Roland Schutz. He's actually looked quite good this season.
Yeah, 14th in the standings for Roland Schutz. He will drop down from there, unfortunately, but nevertheless, it's been a season that has had some high points for him. 2 top 10 finishes at Sebring, with the high point being that 6th place back at Monza. Antonin Titus in 9th place, fighting away with Binsbergen, and we can see it's not as easy this time for Mattia De Campo to get through, and is running out of time. Not only that, but next time he goes for a move on Binsbergen, if he gets the chance, he's going to have Titus to get for company. And we can see our leader, Mia Rose, and the gap is coming down even further here, Lewis. 1.6 seconds it is now. 2 to go. Varkonyi is going to have to take 0.8 of a second out of the lead of Mia Rose. It's going to be very difficult. We go back to this battle for 8th place. Mattia De Campo there to the left of our picture, gets down the inside of Antonin Titus, and through he goes. Right, 1 down, 1 more to go for him to get that 8th place he was chasing before he had that spin.
Yeah, and I think it's very much possible with the next 2 laps. There is not long left to go in this race in the season, of course.
1.4.
I think Mia Rose, honestly, I think she'll be fine, but I would not be comfortable. All you're doing in that car is you're looking at the gap, you're counting it down, you're thinking, okay, all I have to do, if they're going to lap in the low 1 minute 54s, what do I have to do? Okay, if I lap in the high 154s, which is a calm lap, I can do this. You've just got to play it like that. You've got to play the big, long game, and yeah, be bold and be brave. That's all. Yeah, that's all you got to do, and that victory will be there. But Varkonyi's desperate. Doesn't want to finish 2nd for the 4th consecutive time this season. And he's sat there thinking, right, I've been behind Arnold all season. Now I'm ahead. Surely that's got to be for a victory. I don't think so. That's under a second though.
Has he been saving something for this last lap? The gap 1 second now. Varkonyi is getting closer and closer to Mia Rose. It looks almost a certainty that he will qualify through to the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual with Sean Arnold as one of the top 2 finishers of the Le Mans Virtual Cup. Mia Rose looks like she will end that winning streak of Sean Arnold, but she has to hold off Zoltan Varkonyi to do so, and she has some traffic to deal with here on the final lap. She has someone coming out the pit lane just ahead of her there. Zoltan Varkonyi, that will all help him. He'll now get a tow coming out of turn number 1. Car moves aside for him. 0.8 of a second is now the gap. And here we can see closing in as they make their way down towards turn number 4. Zoltan Varkonyi might get the run here going down the back straight, Lewis.
Big snap of oversteer as well from Varkonyi, coming through T4 out and over that curve, heading down through the S's section. Mia Rose under a lot of pressure. Look at how much faster Varkonyi's going, throwing everything through that S's section into the hairpin. There could be a move potentially into turn 11 as we head into 9 and 10 now. With out of 8, 9 and 10 will tick off. If Varkonyi is this close, we could see a sense similar to what we saw from De Campo earlier when he was trying to get past Titus Binsbergen. I think this is going to be a tight one.
On board with Varkonyi, Mia Rose just ahead of us, but Varkonyi has got to be conscious that he can't take any silly risks in this race. He's got to keep an eye on that seat in the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual. Mia Rose knows that. She knows that he'll have to take a risk if he wants to take the win, and he can't really afford to do so. Zoltan Varkonyi, whoa, big big lunge trying to come down the inside there. Zoltan Varkonyi didn't quite come off for him, but has he got one more opportunity left as he makes his way down towards the final corner? Mia Rose, I think, might have just done enough here. Through the final corner they come. The winning streak for Sean Arnold is going to come to an end. The final win in the Le Mans Virtual Cup Season 2 is going to go to Mia Rose as she crosses the line at Bahrain. But your two qualifiers, the top two in the championship, in reverse order, Zoltan Varkonyi, and your winner, our champion, will be Sean Arnold, and those two will be teammates in January for the 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual. Mia Rose, I'm almost certain, after a performance like that throughout the season and this race, that we will see her racing in the Le Mans Virtual Series at some stage.
Got to be on the grid. She's surely got to be on the grid for the Le Mans Virtual. If you're a team and you're thinking, we need another driver, I mean, do you need another example? Absolutely super drive there from Mia Rose. Dominant, I don't think is the word that I'd use. There were points where I was like, just walking away with it. I think calculated.
Yeah.
And very, very much worthy. Obviously, the big donuts. Yeah, spend them up. Zoltan Varkonyi, though, second for the fourth consecutive race in the Le Mans Virtual Cup of 2022. Can't finish anywhere other than second, apparently, if you are Zoltan Varkonyi. But you've got to say, between our top two in the championship, between Varkonyi, between Sean Arnold, very worthy. Top two in the standings.
Their confirmation of the results. Sido Vaya finished in fourth place. Thomas Bach, fantastic performances throughout the season, and two drivers who will finish in the top 10 in the championship. Theo Makuris came around too late really to compete for an overall qualifying spot, but what a fantastic performance he's put in his time. Eureka Slovinac, 7th place and a personal best result. Mattia De Campo finishes in 8th place, a personal best result for him. Likewise for Antonin Titus, his first top 10 finish as well. And Jelle Binsbergen completes the top 10, another driver who takes his best result of the season. A lot of drivers putting in fantastic auditions, shall we say, at the last round there. What a time to go in and put in your best performance of the season, Lewis.
Yeah, you know, you end with a high in the season. It gives you that extra little bit of confidence, that extra little push, not only for potentially a chance to take part in the Le Mans Virtual, of course, next year in January, but also just generally in future. You know, you're ending the year of 2022 with a massive victory or a massive result. Generally, I think it's only a positive step for quite a few, although there were quite a few negatives for some. Of course, Fabian Barlow didn't even get to the race start properly.
Well, you can see behind us, this was Juha Mäki-Jopi, 3-1, did not go. I don't really think you can place the blame on that one for anyone, really.
No,
it's just
racing.
Yeah, Mäki-Jopi, it's first lap racing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, he had to go for it, but where else is Mia Rose going to go?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Mäki-Jopi, like I say, you've got to stand there and you've got to hold your hands up and think, look, okay, maybe it wasn't the wisest bit. I wouldn't really blame anyone for it, not even to a degree Mäki-Jopi. You've got to go for it sometimes. It's just one of those things.
But we're going to go very shortly now to qualifying. But before we do, Lewis, just very, very quickly, tell us, what do these guys have to look forward to now? Sean Arnold and Zoltan Varkonyi. This is going to be fantastic for them because they're going to be in the 24-hour.
Experience of a lifetime. It's what we saw, of course, back in 2022. And I'm sure they'll be absolutely just raring at the bit to go for the Le Mans Virtual next year. Right, we're going to do a quick pit stop here in the commentary box, and then we will be back for qualifying for the 500 miles of Sebring.
We are ready to get our race underway. The green flag waves at Sebring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so only 7 wide into turn 1. And there's a big moment and contact. Out wide, he's going to try and get the cutback straight up the inside.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Sebring. We fly across from the deserts to the warm Floridian sun and the 500 miles of Sebring. Tonight, it's qualifying for that very important penultimate round of the championship before we move in to the 24 hours itself. It's round 4, and first up, we will have the GTE qualifying. It's going to be an important weekend. It's going to be an important evening qualifying-wise because the circuit is such a challenge, and it is quite challenging also to make a pass. Round 1 was in Bahrain, and then we moved into the 3 tracks in Europe. But we are over in America, in Florida, for the 500 miles. Around 4, maybe even 3.5 hours worth of racing tomorrow afternoon, the shortest of our 5-round championship. My name is Ben Cosson-Juris. It's fantastic to be back in the Le Mans Virtual Studio. And alongside me is Chris McCarthy once again to describe the action through our 2 qualifying sessions. Qualifying has historically across this year, Chris, been madly close.
Yeah, I mean, there was one where we had about less than 1/10 of a second between the top 6 and then less than 2/10 between the top 16. So yeah, it's been incredibly close to call, particularly in the prototype category, and I don't see that being any different around here.
And as a challenging track, you couldn't get any more difficult. It is so bumpy.
Yeah, that's one thing. I think it's going to be the most tricky lap to get right, isn't it? Because it's got different challenges to it. So to put one good lap together is going to be incredibly difficult for these guys. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But what better drivers to put out there than the Le Mans Virtual Series drivers?
Absolutely. Some of the very best drivers in the world with us this weekend, including an F1 world champion. And if you are new to the Le Mans Virtual, because there's plenty of new viewers every week joining and being educated in this fantastic series, then here is a little explainer for you.
The Le Mans Virtual Series will be run on the R-Factor 2 platform and includes a 40-car field, which will be increased to more than 50 for the series finale. Each race features multi-class racing between Le Mans prototype and GTE cars. There will be driver changes, dynamic weather and day-to-night transitions. The calendar will begin in the Middle East for the 8 hours of Bahrain at the Bahrain International Circuit before we head to the Temple of Speed for the 4 hours of Monza in October. A visit to the Ardennes Forest in November for the 6 hours of Spa-Francorchamps, and then we go stateside for the 500 miles of Sebring in December to round out the year. The 24-hour of Le Mans Virtual will close the season with a January finale. Each team roster comprises of 4 drivers, with 3 being required to participate in each race. Teams must field 1 FIA-graded driver in their lineup in at least one of the events. Each driver will need to meet minimum and maximum driver times, and teams will work to create their own setups to optimise performance and strategy. Full simulation includes fuel usage and tyre wear, so strategy will be the key to success. Mechanical failures such as engine and brake failure can and will play a part, with aero damage caused by collisions affecting the car's performance, but can be repaired in the pit stops. The race director and stewards will oversee on-track action and will apply penalties if necessary. The prize pool is $250,000 across the series, half of which will be separated between the series itself and half will be awarded for the 24 hours finale. It will be split equally between both categories, and the top 10 finishers receive prize money according to their position in the series standings.
I've mentioned our F1 World Champion for 2022, but in fact, the grid is packed full of pro drivers for this round, all getting their first taste potentially at Le Mans Virtual in a dress rehearsal for our big 24-hour finale.
Yeah, one of them is going to be coming up in the first session as well for the Marla Racing Team, Bajka Visser. It's going to be great to have her out there. And they're coming off the back of their best result of the season as well. They got a 5th place last time. So a team flying with confidence and a driver who could maybe get them up a little bit further this time around.
And you might actually find that many of our real-world drivers have less experience of Sebring than our virtual drivers. It's an incredibly popular circuit to race
on our Factor 2 and across all sim racing, but it's not a place you often get a chance to race in the real world.
No, not at all. I mean, obviously, famously, the World Endurance Championship tends to go and start there, but yeah, as you said, not really, because I guess maybe location-wise, maybe that's what stops people from racing there on a frequent basis. But yeah, I think the esports guys will be a little bit more experienced around there, as we can see the drivers getting warmed up,
getting themselves ready for our first session. Kevin Siggy down in the bottom middle with a team that I am tipping to be very, very strong. An incredible lineup. Rudy Van Buren, world's fastest gamer, #1 winner. Kevin Siggy and Enzo Benito, who has been such a star in the real and the virtual world. Rudy Van Buren, a real world pro, because he actually raced in the Super Cup for this last year, even though his journey began in sim racing.
Yeah, and he did a good job as well, solidly in the top 10 competing. So a good season for Rudy Van Buren, and he's been one of the drivers that have gone on to show that, you know, it is possible to jump from James Baldwin being another who also races in this championship. So great to have those guys racing in this. It's going to be interesting to see, are we going to see the likes of Aston Martin and Porsche? Are we going to see either one of them go and take a pole position? Yet to take a pole position this season, but two cars that have been on the podium. Will we see them go and beat the BMWs and Ferraris that have dominated qualifying?
It is such a unique circuit. The bumps mean you have a very specific setup of car, and the cars are out on circuit. We've got green flag at the end of pit lane, and therefore we can go into our qualifying session of 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was this car here that took pole position here last year and went on to win the race as well. They lead the championship so far on 58 points ahead of Red Bull Racing. Let's see what they can do. 20 minutes to go, so they'll go out and do a warm-up lap and get their first run in, and then I'm sure we'll see them come in for a tyre change and repeat that process a couple of times. That tends to be what we've seen throughout the season, and they'll try and get a few runs in throughout, but no surprise to see our championship leaders the first ones out of the pit lane, and a clear track ahead of them now to play with.
Absolutely what you want when you get out into Sebring. A clear track with nobody making any errors in front of you. Just look at how challenging this circuit is. Look at the body language of the car bouncing around over these curbs. The BMW M8 GTE is a big machine anyway. The circuit's not very, very wide as well in most places. It is a circuit from the 1950s, where in fact the 1959 US Grand Prix, the very first time Formula One ever went to the US, it was held on this circuit. Didn't have a very good audience, so soon moved away, and it's become the home of endurance racing in the US of A. A concrete surface for the Ullman Straight, the back straight, which was once a runway. This is an airfield circuit originally, and then this legendary sunset bend at the end of the straight. Just look how the car bounces around through this long right-hander.
There's no obvious racing line through there either. There's about 10 or 12 different racing lines you can take through that corner, which is always fantastic to watch, as we can see D Station, who are having an absolutely fantastic season in comparison. They got their best ever qualifying result last time out, and then their best race result. So let's see what they can go and do this time.
The concrete section over the start and finishing line and into a very fast turn one. Big slide from the 777 D Station Aston Martin into turn one, and then you head up to a relatively fast turn two, but more importantly, much narrower turn two. You can see we then move on to a tarmac, more legitimate kind of a surface, but even that surface has been patchworked over the years, and so braking zones and slower corners like this one at the back of the circuit is still very different, and you go into one turn, you've got a different grip level to another turn. A real challenge for these drivers, and a challenge also with the narrowness and the sweepingness of the circuit when these guys come into racing, to stay out the way of the LMP category that will be trying to lap them.
Yeah, that's one thing that's always an issue around here, traffic. It was a big problem throughout the race last year. It's a big challenge for the prototype drivers to get through. As you can see, this section of the circuit is just so narrow, isn't it? So when you've got one of the LMP cars trying to get past a battle in the GT class, it's always gets a little bit tricky, but great stuff to watch. So do make sure you're with us for the race tomorrow. It's going to be absolutely fantastic.
The BMW looking really good here in the hands of Kevin Siggy, the 71 championship leader, run by Team Redline for BMW, a works machine with the Verstappen.com livery coming into this final corner to set a benchmark for the rest to follow. Dropping down a gear early to get the traction out the turn and not have too much wheel spin as it comes across the line. The time to beat then will be a 1:56.788.
And we can see Sim Marinello look like they're on for a good time as well. They've gone purple through the second sector. R8G have gone to the top. Risto Capet going quickest in the 888. As Sim Marinello, after that purple second sector, do go quickest.
There is the R8G liveried Ferrari 888. Second fastest, Risto Capet from Estonia is the driver being trusted with qualifying, already sliding around the rear end, not quite biting in the way that you would like. There is an element of driving these cars a little bit with the tail and moving the rear end around. We see it on other, certainly it seems to be the fastest way to get these cars around the circuit, although you would say when it comes to a race setup it's just going to ruin the tyres. So two very different approaches when it comes to the race tomorrow and the qualifying today. Yeah,
I mean with this it's just get everything you can out of the car for that one lap. And then they'll bring the car in and change tyres, I'm sure. So far, the Ferraris look to have got the upper hand around this circuit. You can see 1, 2, and 3 for Sim Marinello, SF Velas, and for R8G as well. And then Proton Coanda fall in 4th place. Now, championship leaders only down in 5th place, so struggling by their incredibly high standards so far. But look how close it is as well. Less than 2/10 between the top 5. There we go.
First attempt, and they're all still on. And they've all, of course, had plenty of practice time, unlike the real world, where it's very hard to go testing at the circuit in which you're racing. The track is open and free, and tyres don't cost you anything in the world of sim racing, so you can bang in the laps, and you can guarantee that the Le Mans preparation will already have begun for these guys. This is very much a dress rehearsal, an opportunity, as I said at the top of the show, to get some of the drivers that perhaps don't have as much experience into a short race. This race will be the shortest of our championship, so a taste of how it all runs without impacting too much on the overall result, but there are still points for that championship awarded at the end of this one.
A bit of a difficult start for Oracle Red Bull Racing, one of our main contenders, running down in 11th, but everyone will now come into the pits. As I said before, they'll be changing the tyres, and then we'll see them back out. Here is the Marla Racing team.
Interesting approach here. Marla coming out about a lap later than everybody else. So these guys are on their out lap. They're about to start their fast lap. Everybody else is either slowing down or already in the pit. So they're going to have a nice clean track, a slightly polished track, a track that's already been run by 15 other cars. And D'Alessandro is going to have a nice clean guaranteed track ahead of him, although there is people starting to come back out of the circuit. Maybe that hasn't worked as well as the philosophy might have suggested.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is that whilst everyone might get 3 stabs at a lap, they will only probably get the 2. So that's the other thing that's not going to play into their favour. So it puts a little bit more pressure onto D'Alessandro. But as you said, it does mean that the track's a little bit more rubbered in, and it means that they should have a free run at it. No risk of anyone spinning ahead of them on a flying lap.
An opportunity to look into the sim rig room of Michele D'Alessandro. Triple screen, direct drive wheel. You can see the inputs on the bottom right and what the game is seeing on the top right, and it's pretty much exactly the same, other than him scratching his head.
It looks like a good, decent lap so far. 44 flat through the first section. Not the quickest we've seen. 3/10 off. So struggling a little bit through there. It would be good enough for a top 6 possibly. It depends what he can do through the second section.
Looks like a bit of understeer there. Throw the front end in. There wasn't a lot of oversteer, and we saw with Kevin Siggy's lap the car was really dancing on the very edge. Oh, that was a mistake. Loads and loads of lock. Trying to throw the car in. I did notice that the approach seems to be quite aggressive, but if you've got a car that isn't really working for you, then the more aggression will generate tyre temperature, yes, but it will also scrub speed. So with one corner to go, maybe D'Alessandro goes, do you know what, this isn't going to work out for me. I'm nearly a second off. I bail now, and that'll give me a bit more time later on.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame him if he did do that, yes. Sensible to do it. Wasn't going to be anywhere worthy of doing the lap. So we look back at the AAA R8G, which is running in third place, and Kevin Siggy has just gone quickest through the first sector.
Kevin Siggy, I think, is the only man to have completed that first sector on his second attempt. Van Doren in the Porsche 88 has just done that as well. And Capet is already a tenth and a half down on Siggy, although, and slightly down actually on his last time. That's what you're seeing on that graphic. Oh, and a swapper there as he goes on to the dirty stuff, and the rear end steps away from him. So Risto Capet may not find an improvement here. The track development is not going to be as big as perhaps you might expect at a track like Bahrain. It's not a dusty place. And actually, we do look like we're in the kind of the dusk of the day, so maybe even temperature dropping at the end of the lap. But Capet sliding around a lot here, and the time is dropping. Again, he'll see that on his dashboard. In fact, he'll have micro sectors on his dashboard. Might be worth bailing out of this one as Siggy comes through the final turn. It's Ferrari 1, 2, 3 at the moment, but Kevin Siggy with the fastest first sector of anybody, a very good second sector, comes to the line and only goes second. Still, Ferrari leads, and that Ferrari is improving.
Yeah, brilliant second sector from Sim Maranello. They look like they're going to go and improve on that time, but everyone out there is improving. You've got the likes of Simsa on to improve. BMW or BS Plus Competition are going to improve as well. I don't see anyone that hasn't really improved. I think Project One are the only team that are going a little bit slower. Other than that, we could see a lot of changes here as Proton co-anda in the 88 go to P6.
What is the gap going to be extended to? Sim Maranello over the line and does improve. Christian Malguera gets a 1:56.381, and it's 2.5 tenths better than Kevin Siggy's second attempt, which promoted him up into second position. That is a fantastic lap from the Italian.
Yeah, for a team that's yet to be on the podium this season, that's incredibly impressive stuff from Sim Maranello. Can SF Velas do? Being 2 tenths back would probably put them on the front row at this rate. If they make their way round the final corner, they come into pit lane. So SF Velas in third place for them so far. Marla are out of sequence, so will this be, I think this will be them starting a flyer.
Yep. Bailed on that first one, sits in 16th position, just off our graphic on the left-hand side as the last car, the car without a lap time to its name. Again, a Works BMW, sorry, this is a non-Works BMW entry. We've got the Works BMW entry with Team Redline, and we've got a BS competition car as well in the field, and this is the third BMW in our entry list, run as a legitimate sponsor, Mahler, a German engineering company. And this car now, I think, is run by the BS Plus competition agency.
It was a team that ran in the LMP category last year and then jumped down to GTs, or jumped back down because it initially ran in GTs in the 2020 race and is now returned to that class as it comes through.
It's a car that you have to be a little bit careful with in sim racing, because in some days it's a Williams eSports car, and other days it's a BS Plus car. But for Le Mans Virtual running with the BS Plus team, which makes it kind of a customer entry to its Works entry teammate, which is the number 89 car, which sits there in 6th position right now.
This is P1 eSport. I think this is showing just how much of a difficult circuit this is. 1 second, this is the biggest gap I think we've probably had so far. Maybe Spa might have been something similar, but this is for a fairly shorter circuit. This is a big gap, isn't it, between the field. 1 second separating 13 cars is not usually what we see in the Le Mans Virtual Series, but that just goes to show how difficult the Sebring circuit is.
Hakkinen starts, is that? That's Turkka Hakkinen for P1 Esports, the 111 machine, as we watch D-Station start their lap. I can tell you that the BMW of Mahler has gone up to 12th position, so again, not a massively strong lap from Michele De Alessandre. And our graphics now showing just the top 13, so relegating the number 25 in-speed racing Porsche down to last. They're in the pits right now. Big shock for me, at least, is that we've got Moritz Lerner in the number 11 car in his Project One by Dury Sports team. They are down penultimate, in 15th position. Now, Moritz Lerner started the year with no experience, really, on this platform in this series, running his team, Dury Esports, in this championship. He's had a really strong first round, and yet struggling for the moment at Sebring.
Here we watch D-Station, currently down in 13th place. Are they on to improve? They have certainly on to improve on their own lap time, but again, having a difficult second sector in comparison to what the likes of Sim Maranello and BMW Team Redline are able to do. And that's a similar story for P1 Esport as well.
Don't forget that the performance over one lap is very different to the performance over one stint in our endurance race kicking off tomorrow. Oh, that's a horrible last turn. The Aston Martin bouncing all over the place through Sunset. So D-Station bailing out of that one. But look at the far right of screen. That's the 51 machine lighting up the timing screens. Here is SF Velas.
They were third, they're now fourth. Proton Coanda jumping up to third place in the 77. P1 Esport up to ninth.
But Kasper Stoltz is really attacking the car, moving around a lot through the Le Mans section of turns and onto the Ullmann back straight. Coming to this final turn, the front splitter grazing the concrete below it. SF standing for Scuderia Ferrari. This is the Works Ferrari entry towards the line. And can it get ahead of its customer teammate? No improvement in the end there. Well, slight improvement up to third position, but still the gap between the 26 and the 71 at the head of the field is 2.5 tenths. Here is Kevin Ziggy once more, but it's been a big loss in the middle sector.
Yeah.
Comparably.
Yeah.
2.5 tenths is not big, but
well, it seems to be that's it. Just has the upper hand. That's not the first time we've seen it smash the first sector and then lose time in the second and possibly final sector as well. RHG look like they're on to improve in P5 there. They've just done 2 personal bests. Well, it must have been a mistake for Kevin Siggy there because he's rolled into pit lane. He's going to go for one more, I think.
The thing is, in their cockpit, they can see the mini sectors, so they can get to the sunset bend. They can know that they're not going to make up 2.5 tenths in the final corner, and so head straight to pit lane. Yeah. Here is the 888 and up to second position. Whoa! Just 0.02 of a second off pole position. Risto Capit has made it 1-2 for Ferrari. 2 separate teams and not the Works team.
RHG. And we can see up into P2. Fantastic for the tripper. Fantastic lap there from the 888, as you said. Only 0.02 of a second between them.
Let's not forget, though, that RHG do have a 10-place grid drop for every single one of their cars for an infringement on Article 17 of the Code of Conduct. And therefore, great to show the potential here. Up into second position, but they're going to drop right into the traffic come race day and that really tricky first turn.
That will make that even more frustrating, won't it, knowing where they could have been up there in P2. Here's in speed and just making their way down the Ullmann straight on to improve on this lap. At least through the second sector. They've done a personal best. Let's see if they can improve. A team who are definitely focusing on the 24-hour race. Make their way through the final corner now. See if they can bring the gap down to the rest of the field as they come across the line. Will it be a personal best lap for them? Not quite.
Just 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining in this session. Plenty of cars heading back out onto circuit for one last attempt. Ferrari does seem to be the car to have, and in fact, SF Velas have not left the pits. They cannot do another lap.
No, neither will ProDrive, which is coming off the back of two second-place finishes as well for ProDrive. However, that is a team that tends to go better in the race stints, shall we say. They've done very well over the longer stints, so I would keep an eye on them for tomorrow, but they're going to be in 11th, and it seems they've settled for that.
Another real surprise is the number 99 Oracle Racing Red Bull, the Works Red Bull Racing team, down in 12th position, and Dennis Jordan is inconspicuous completely.
Half a second off the top Porsche car, so yeah, it's they could have been fighting for a top 5. The pace of the Porsche definitely has the potential to do that, but Oracle Red Bull Racing not currently finding it at the moment.
A little messy last corner from D Station, but they do need to get over the line to complete this lap. They do so, and it's an improvement up to 8th position. That's good stuff from the Aston Martin. We now focus our attention on 26 Sim Maranello, because they've only got 10 seconds to get around Sunset and to start their lap, to protect their advantage. I think some people here are going to miss out on getting a last lap, and certainly the BMW of BS Competition are one, Sim Maranello are another. Surely. Just waiting for the graphic to confirm that. Yes.
Yeah. Sim Maranello don't make the flag, as you said. Ferris Stanley didn't make it either.
There is Ferris.
BS Competition. And it's also the flag for Di Alessandro and InSpeed. So over to red line, and let's see what they do through the first sector. They go quicker. Well, that's no surprise, really. We expected that. It's what they can do now through the second, Ben.
Let's watch this car then bouncing over the tarmac changes of Sebring. Can he find a little bit more pace in the middle sector? He's got better pace in the middle. All he needs to do is match what he's done in this middle sector, and he's already got a 10th on his best previous in the first. It might not actually be enough to get him on that pole position, such as the gap to Sim Maranello. But BMW Team Redline, our championship leaders. Yes, this is much better.
Yeah. And I'll tell you who else is improving, Oracle Red Bull Racing as well. They've left it to the last lap, but they are on to improve to potentially get themselves into the top 5 or 6 positions here, it could be, as they come out the final corner.
Here comes Dennis Jordan to the checkered flag then. Where is this going to put Red Bull? Oof, just one position up, 12th position for them. What about Kevin Siggy into Sunset? Turns in early, clips the first part of the barrier, then brings it back to the second part. Now tries to avoid the biggest of the bumps and let the car run wide to the barrier, as wide as you possibly dare. Lots of momentum over the line, and Kevin Siggy stays in 3rd position. It is an improvement, an incredible improvement, but it's not enough.
Yeah, 45 thousandths there between the top 3. That's the Le Mans Virtual Series for you. Proton, the 77, 5th place it stayed, and that is your lot for the GT class. Sim Maranello, a first pole position for them.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Kevin Siggy actually is going to line up on the front row alongside them, because the 888 car is going to have that 10-place grid drop. So that's actually worked out quite nicely for BMW Team Redline. They will have clear track ahead going into that infamous turn 1. They're not going to be in traffic, but even 1 or 2 positions back, and it could be a real struggle for them.
Yeah, so 2 apiece, that is, for BMWs and Ferraris this season for pole positions.
Here it is then. Sim Maranello take their pole position, and just 200ths ahead of R8G. The 888 will be demoted down to 12th position, elevating Team BMW Redline up into 2nd, SF Velas up into 3rd, Proton Coanda up to 4th position, and then a little bit of a gap to BMW Team BS, who missed out on that last lap. Simsa in 7th, D Station with a good qualifying in 8th position, Proton Coanda in 9th spot, and then P1 Esports in 10th. Satellite Racing, in their Aston Martin. 11th spot with Oracle Red Bull Racing head-scratching in 12th. ProDrive down in 13th position. They'll be looking to do better tomorrow. And then Project One by Durr. And yeah, also the BMW M8 of Mahler down in 15th position. So that strategy, whatever they were trying to do, it didn't really work out for them.
Didn't really work, no. But yeah, some surprises, but more down the grid than up the grid, really, wasn't it? Really, for sort of the likes of ProDrive and Oracle Red Bull Racing, definitely out of position. And then we're going to have RAG, someone who should have been on the front row, out of position for a penalty as well. So that's going to make things interesting for tomorrow.
And the real struggle, the real problem with that is the traffic in turn one. We've seen so often chaos as it funnels into turn two. And you know, you've got the pace, but you're going to have to be so patient. Yeah,
and it's not. This is the shortest race of the calendar. This isn't the race where you want to be chasing, is it? But here we can see the pole position lap from Malguera for Sim Maranello. And you can just see they're moving the car around, coming through the second sequence of corners. Not the approach they're going to take in the race for the 3.5 hours tomorrow, but when you're trying to get every inch out of the lap, it's absolutely fantastic.
And that is absolutely clear. Look how pointy this car is. When he turns it in, it goes exactly where he wants it, and then he's rotating it just a little bit more on the throttle. So you couldn't do that for more than about 3 laps. You destroy your tyres. And that's why qualifying is one thing, but the race is very, very different. They're going to have a completely different setup tomorrow. And how will the car manage it? Missing the apex just a little bit there, just giving it a little bit more room than perhaps he would have wanted. And now it's more of an acceleration out towards the back end of the circuit. Hooks that one up beautifully, bounces perfectly to the outside. Now you come towards these sweepers, which is named Le Mans. And again, the car just, the rear end following the fronts beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff. You see it keeping it over to the left there, opens up this right-hander, running it perfectly to the edge. And now you can take a bit of a breath down the Ulman Straight before you have to start bracing yourself for Sunset Bend.
Let's have a look at how he approaches this, because as you said at the top of the show, there are so many different approaches. Turn in early, he gives it a lot more room, that first apex, than we saw the BMW. He turns in a lot later, which gives him a little bit more space on the exit to run out, and the car just looked hooked up. Sim Maranello have got a great qualifying setup, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The car, as you said, just going everywhere he wanted it to go. And an absolutely fantastic lap as well there from Malguera. Fully deserved pole position.
Well, let's take a quick break before we head on to our LMP category qualifying. And again, thank one of our great sponsors. We have established the last 16 positions on our grid for the 500 miles of Sebring, and now it's time to award the rest of the grid positions to our LMP category. It's absolutely stacked full of talent, whether it be from the sim world or from the real world. We've got Formula 2 drivers from the 1990s, and we've got our F1 world champion in our entry list. Of course, we might not necessarily see them until tomorrow, but ultimately it is so exciting. For me, let's forget Max Verstappen for a second. All the other names that are coming from the real world into this category to get themselves warmed up for Le Mans.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've got the likes, as you said, of Ayrton Juven there, Raffaele Marcello, Romain Grosjean as well. Absolutely fantastic to see him coming back. Job van Uyter, Josh Skelton is an up-and-coming driver in the GT world as well. So the list goes on. I mean, you'd be leaving them out if you started to go through them all, but so many fantastic drivers in there.
And also interesting to see people who've got great experience, for instance, Arthur Rouget on other platforms, and the teams going, hey, you're good at sim racing, come to us, and being attracted to this series. And also for someone like Romain Grosjean, to come back again. He only needs to do one round of the championship to kind of qualify as a pro driver in this series, and yet he was in the last round. He's doing this, and of course he'll have to be at Le Mans.
Yeah, absolutely. James Baldwin, we've got out there as well, who put in a real fantastic performance for the AMG team last time. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. He did a real fantastic job.
Yeah, we mentioned drivers, but let's talk about teams for a second. Those works entries from Mercedes, such a big hype at the start of the season with a great lineup running just down the road from where we are here in the Mercedes factory. There are some big names, and yet the legitimate names of Redline, there they are.
Yeah. I mean, to get that win last time for them has just promoted them up the order in the championship, now in the top 6 in the standings. And this is one of the rounds where we don't get the biggest amount of points. 25 you get for the win here. But if you can be within contention going into that 24-hour race, you can easily go and take the win in the championship.
Here is the Sebring International Raceway that has hosted endurance racing. The very first WEC race back in 2012 was held here, and it has been a regular 12-hour race. We do 500 miles. Crucial overtaking opportunity at the hairpin turn of turn 7, reprofiled over, I think, in the mid-80s, and then the back end of the circuit at Le Mans. The sweeping turns 15 and 16 that lead onto Ullman Straight, and then the sunset bend, the last turn, which has so much of a challenge. We shouldn't need our wet tyres today. Soft, medium and hards on offer during the race, but softs will be the order of our qualifying session, there is no doubt.
Of course, yeah, you want to get the most you can out of it, and it's going to be a tough one to call this, really. One thing that we have had is no one winning from pole position, so do you want to take pole position? I don't really know. As we say that, cars are now starting to leave the pit lane, of course, and one thing we do have to keep an eye on is the R8G guys as well. If they are at the head of the field, we will, of course, see those penalties being added.
Yeah, top 3 in GT were within 4.5 hundredths of a second. LMP has always been closer in qualifying so far, and so I'm not quite sure how we're going to be able to separate some of our top runners. But anyway, they're on circuit. We've got qualifying underway. The lights are ablaze as we go into the evening sunset. Always lovely in Florida. It's so flat that you get a fantastic sunset at Sebring. And of course, they have not only the 24 hours in March, the 12 hours in March.
Yes.
They always say a 12-hour race at Sebring is like a 24 hours at Le Mans, such as the endurance on the car, the bumps and the drivers. They also have historic racing and plenty of other national championships around the circuit. My father said to me, you need to have good facts about Sebring. And I said, well, I think I've got a few. He said, how far is it from Daytona? 2.5 hours drive, so it's not far away from the coast, but it is very much in the centre of Florida.
There we go.
There is the AMG Mercedes machine with its silver nose and red rear end. As you said, had a good result last time out.
Yeah, they're certainly moving in the right direction. After that DNF, an 8th place for them in the second round, and then they went and took the win last time out. James Baldwin taking it to the flag for them in the end, but a team effort all around, really. They put in a really good performance. It was a hard race to call at times. There was many teams in contention for finishing on the podium, but AMG really rose to the occasion when required and went and took the win, and now put themselves in contention for the championship with a result like that, with the points that they got from it. So yeah, let's see what they can go and do. They'll be flying with confidence now.
Oh, throws it into turn 1, and I'm not sure if the rear end really stuck.
Okay.
Here is the green flag at the end of pit lane. Oh, dearie me. Williams going into the back of the Floyd Van Wall number 4 machine. So that is... so Dennis Scourin driving for Van Wall Burst. And yes, that is... Who is in the 53 then? Wisniewski going into the back of him. So Wisniewski is in the AMG Williams run machine. Here is the 63, which is the AMG team, which is known as the AMG Petronas team on our entry list, and it has the fastest. Through the first sector, Bono Huis is there, right there, in our inset and in the car.
There he is.
Or is it Bono House? Or is it Bono?
House.
I'm sticking with Huis, because it's definitely not House. No chance.
That's what Lewis says.
I know, but it doesn't mean Lewis is always right. He's right a lot of the time.
I don't know. I just tend to say, okay, if you say so, then I'll agree with you.
I wonder whether Bono is down the road at Brackley in the facility, their sim room facility at the Mercedes factory. Whether he's at home back in Holland. Another Dutch driver, Team Redline's Jeffrey Rietveld, getting it all crossed up there. Having to get out of the throttle. We've got drive-through penalties for 3 separate cars, including this one.
Wow.
Have they gone? Now, we're going to have to find out why that is. And how does a drive-through penalty get kind of done in a qualifying session?
I imagine the same way, really.
Well, it doesn't really penalise you then, does it? No. It's not a penalty.
Well, it does stop you from putting a lap. It does.
Oh, you reckon you have to actually drive through?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be definitely annoying. The amount of time you're actually going to lose from that is quite significant, really.
A reminder, if you're just tuning in, that the R8G team, every single vehicle has a 10-place grid drop for an infraction after the last round. And so at the moment we have a number 8 on the pole position, but that will only equate to 10th spot once those penalties are awarded. Bono Heath then is the provisional pole holder right now, with Wisniewski in the Mercedes Williams run machine in 2nd position behind them.
And we can see the number 86 making its way out of the final corner, the GR Vector eSport team, and they come up to the line to get on another flyer. GR Vector eSports, who have had a bit of a difficult season so far. Best result for them of 16th. Let's see what they can do this time, and that's where they currently run in this session as we look at ARC Bratislava now coming around Sunset Bend. And they're going to come straight into pit lane as well. So looks like most have got in that first flying lap. Like we had in GTs, they'll put in a flying lap and then they'll return to the pits, change tyres and go out and repeat the process.
Traffic's going to be a bit more of a problem here. We've got 24 cars on the entry list. Not all of them went out at the start of the session, so we are seeing a bit of a stagger. But as we can see here, riding on board with the number 20 Porsche Coanda machine, Guven, Tommy Usgaard and Michel de Jong.
Sounds better.
Yeah, a bit of traffic for them to contend with right now. Who's in that car? De Jong doing the qualifying.
Yeah, they're just coming up, as you said, to complete that lap. Let's see, or complete the in-lap, shall I say, into the pits they go. So now pretty much everyone is back in. Already some of the teams making their way back out again. So R8G, a great first lap for them, but as you said, it's damage limitation, really. That's the best possible thing they can do is get 10th place. AMG Petronas currently, almost a crash going into the pit lane there. AMG Petronas currently on to take pole position.
Now here's the legitimate full Williams entry. And we will see in that car Sammy Matti Trogan, Jack Keithley and Peter Bergelac running across our 4 hours. It's Bergelac who is qualifying the car, and he is just starting a lap. So we get a chance to see how this Williams machine is coping. Plenty of bumps, as you can see, with a GTE category car, because it's got softer suspension, you don't see as many of the bumps. These things are set up like skateboards, and so you see every single little nook and cranny, every single break of tarmac. The driver feels it. I don't know if many of them are wearing VR, but it would be a horrible experience, I have to say. One of the few places I wouldn't want to use my VR headset racing around Sebring. The back end kicking up. The big challenge really is to keep the car attached to the tarmac.
Yeah, and Williams, this has been an area of the race weekend, shall we say, where they've struggled with over the course of the couple of seasons we've had. Getting a good qualifying result in. They tend to make it up on race day, but if they can get a good qualifying together, then they really could start getting some good results in. Here we see that Porsche Coanda car, the number 20.
Yeah, that's just come out of the pits, having bailed on their first lap, so no time set for Mitchell de Jong. There he is in the Coanda household, which is a surprise, actually, being American. He's obviously come down to Europe to be part of the team in their house in Germany. usually Mitchell is racing from the US.
It looks like the number 65 there, getting into the top 10, the Panish racing team, going up to 9th place, so decent lap time from them.
De Jong lets Bergelac through. Bergelac, one of the few drivers on a lap right now. And that Williams Esports car will come across the line ahead and goes up into 9th position as De Jong starts his lap.
Yeah, good lap time. Top 10 for them. Less than half a second between our top 10 so far. But now we're starting to see some improvements in the first sector. As the first sectors come in, we can see the R8G number 8 has improved. In fact, not worth going through it. Every car that has gone through the first sector within the top 10, all going quicker on this lap. And one of the quickest of them is actually the number 23 of Josh Rogers. He is on an absolute flyer, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. He's currently down in 6th place, but on to improve in that Porsche Coanda.
This is the car that is provisionally on the pole position right now. We'll have Arthur Rougier, new to that team, Yuri Toman and Marcel Sinchik, who is the man doing the qualifying. After Rougier, very, very fast driver in the SRO Esports series and also in the real world as well as the virtual. Didn't have it his own way this year, but champion last year, and that is a very strong signing for R8G and French. They do love to have French in their team. Sinchik comes across the line, does improve, and 3/10 clear of the rest of the field. That's a wiggle from Josh Rogers in the Porsche Coanda through the final turn. It's looking like it's going to be a good lap, though. An improvement from Wisniewski, but he gets toppled by Rogers. Rogers up into 2nd position, though, as Mitchell de Jong is in the final sector and looking like he will improve, but at the moment nobody can touch Sinchik, who's still 1.5 tenths clear of the rest of the field. Towards the line comes Mitchell de Jong, the American, looking to the line, and it's a 2nd spot for him. They are chipping away at the advantage of the Hungarian, but nobody close enough right now.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant time there from the Porsche Coanda. Wouldn't be the first time we'd seen them on pole either. Between the two of them, they've really dominated qualifying this season. Great stuff. AMG Williams going well in 4th place there as well. Where's Team Redline? They're down in 10th, our championship leaders, so struggling so far.
The animals went 2 by 2, hurrah. Porsche, AMG, Van Wall at the moment, and then R8G. And I say that ignoring the 1st position because, of course, R8G are going to have that penalty. So at the moment, we do have a Porsche Coanda 1-2 on provisional pole. Bit of a weird one because obviously on our timing screens, they're 2nd and 3rd, but ultimately they have that front row lockout. On board with Alpine.
No, Panis.
Sorry, Panis.
Same country.
Well, yeah.
Close enough.
Frenchies. I can say that, I'm married to one, it's okay. Just before anybody says I'm being disgenerous. And
Yep.
it's Florian Ligier who is aboard that machine. Down at the moment in 12th position. We'll share it with Job van Uitert and Quentin Vallier.
We've seen them in the we've seen them in the top 10 this season. Panis Racing Team, always in and around it. They've had a consistent run so far. 12th in the standings for them, so knocking on the door of the top 10. Can they get in it in qualifying here? They come up to the line now.
Let's not forget that, unlike many other championships, drivers do have to observe the real rules of qualifying, so you can't just end their lap, park it in the gravel and press escape.
Yeah.
They have to go back into pit lane.
Yeah.
If you cannot make it back into pit lane, then you cannot continue your qualifying session. You cannot just bail. Most cars doing their in-laps, going into the pits, and now heading back out onto circuit for another attempt. We can only assume that our 3 drivers that got themselves penalties at the start of the session have served those drive-through penalties.
Yeah, that was a bit of a weird... Whoa, who was that? Someone got lost at the first corner. Found their way back again.
Very polite of them to give them so much room.
Yeah. Was that the Williams car? I don't know who that was. I wouldn't like to take a guess, actually.
Well, they were good because Panis was starting a lap just then.
Yeah.
So they get well out of the way of Fabian. As we now focus our attention on Bono Hiss.
We can see Panis have gone quicker through the first sector as well. Personal best for them. Need 2.5 tenths back, so that's a good start to the lap for them, but losing a bit of time through the second sector, unfortunately.
Bono's lost 0.2 of a second in the first sector alone. Again, another lock-up at the front right inside wheel. We saw that in the early part of the lap. It happens again at Tower, the hairpin and Tower, the two big braking zones around this Sebring circuit. And can he claw it back at the end of this second sector?
Seems Team Redline have now joined qualifying by their standards. We haven't really seen them so far.
Well, I think that's because they've served that penalty. So
yes.
You were saying that it was going to penalise them. They've had to do a lap, go into the pits, drive through the pits, come back, go into the pits again. So they're completely off schedule.
Yeah.
And finally, we're seeing Jeffrey Rietveld getting a lap time in, only down in 11th position right now, but on course to really join the party at the sharp end of the field. Whizzed through the final corner, but I think he's going to bail on this one.
Yeah, let's see what he does.
He doesn't,
No.
but I don't know why. Because it isn't going to be... Oh, it is an improvement. How weird. Okay.
There we go.
It's a really good improvement, up to 3rd position.
He must have found something through in the mini sectors. It must have been coming up there. He'd done something very special through that last sector. In fact, he did.
Here comes Jeffrey Rietveld, though, on course for claiming or taking off provisional pole position from R8G, and he does by nearly 0.3 of a second.
Wow.
On his first proper attempt. Rietveld has stunned again in a car that he will share with Max Benecke and Max Verstappen tomorrow, and he puts them on the very best possible opportunity. But the Porsche Coanders will be fighting back. We still have 5 minutes remaining.
That AMG Petronas, though, on their lap time, they were 0.2 tenths quicker through the final sector of Team Redline. So don't count them out of a pole position just yet. If Bono Haas can go and do another lap time like that.
Well, he's got the sectors.
If he can hook up all those sectors and put them together, then it might be them that lead the way tomorrow.
Lost 0.2 of a second in the first sector, lost another 0.2 of a second in the final sector, and then found a chunk in the final. So if he can go faster in those first two and equal his second, he can be right up there with Redline. An improvement from R8G up into in second position, but improvement on time. Time doesn't really matter for them. They need the positions.
Ooh,
and the 18 car up to 3rd position. That's the car that will see Matthias Besch and Romain Grosjean pilots tomorrow. So 2 pro drivers in that car.
Change for first.
No, I think the graphics need a little bit of a reset. Oh no, there we go. Now it comes in. Coanda, Josh Rogers to the pole position. We followed De Jong round the final turn. Maybe he will now get himself up onto the pole position. No, a poor final sector. Only 4th for the 2nd Porsche Coanda car.
Great stuff from Josh Rogers. There we go. This is what it's starting to look like. This is how close we've seen it throughout the season. I just want to see the AMG Petronas car, see what they can go and do now. It looks like we're going to see an improvement from the 101 car as well. The GR Vector car has been putting some good sectors together a little bit further down. They look like they're about to get a good lap time in. And also on an improvement is the Rocket SimSport car as well, whilst others are returning to the pit lane to put on fresh tyres. Rocket SimSport do improve, but only to 17th.
Pescarolo Esports Monaco, monitoring them through the final sector of the lap. Pescarolo announcing his intention to rejoin the hypercar field at Le Mans for 2024. That Pescarolo name so synonymous as a driver, Henri Pescarolo, but also as a manufacturer and team. And that will be great to have them back in the real world, and it's fantastic to see them represented in the virtual world by 2 Romanian drivers, Darius Andre and Robert Paun, and Hungarian Martin Murgeli. Through the final turn they go. They're in 20th position right now. You can see that on their board on the side of the car. And do they improve? Andre aboard, up to 19th.
Okay.
Oh no, they don't improve. That's... Oh yeah, that was an improvement, sorry. Thought they were on the start of the lap. So they're actually not going to get another lap, are they? With 2 minutes and 20 minutes,
no.
20 seconds remaining.
Their only option is to just try one more, but yeah, they're not going to get the most out of it. So yeah, for them, that's probably the session over.
Good to say hi.
Yeah, whilst everyone else is coming out of the pit lane to get ready for what is sometime always a frantic end to the session, isn't it? Always see plenty of things going on. The timing screens tend to light up in this final lap.
I'm a bit concerned for the 20 here. I'm watching the timing screens. De Jong is still not out of the pits. We've only got a minute and 40 seconds.
There they come now.
Yeah, but that's too late because the pit lane, the lap time flat out is 1 minute and 43.5, and they're not going flat out. They've got to get out of the pits. So I think the 20, Mitchell de Jong, is not going to get another lap in. So 4th at best here, but with cars behind, certainly the 2 AMGs, and you'd say the Van Wals as well, with the potential to improve. Yeah,
it's they've just got it timed a little bit wrong there, because they've not actually come through the first sector yet.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah, it's you might be right with that one.
First person to break the first sector for the final time then, Nico Wisniewski in the 53, the Le Mans winning lineup from the very first Le Mans Virtual. And representing AMG, thanks to Williams, Pescarolo going for a second lap there because they knew they had no other option. Wisniewski on a 38.9 through that first sector. Behind him, he's got the number 2 Team Red Line machine of Luke Bennett aboard that car. Bennett is entered for the number 1 for the full season, but subbing in the number 2 with Luke Browning and Diogo Pinto. But he's a little slower than this car. Here is Nikodem Wisniewski. Middle sector, no better than he's managed before. 3.5 tenths down, but ultimately they're nearly 5 tenths down ultimately. So if this is a good final sector, we should see this car improve.
All he needs to do is just find a little bit of time here through the final sector, and you can make a lot of time. Oh, how close was that out of Sunset Bend?
Utilising the track and more. Over the line he goes. It's no improvement from Wisniewski. He actually comes across the line before the flag, so he could go again, although it's probably unnecessary. And now we wait from what's happening behind.
And it's confirmed that 20 is not going to be able to get a final lap in as well.
Yeah, he's just taken the flag behind the AMG Williams. This is the number 2 red line car, goes up into 8th position and takes the checkered flag. I'm waiting for the number 4. Where is Van Wal?
Well,
10th position only right now.
The number 63 does a personal best through the first sector. Sivancic, who the number 4 has been fairly quiet in this session. Here they are. We haven't really seen much of them. They've done a personal best, but as you can see, currently struggling a little bit.
Look, number 1, Team Redline, P, into the pits already. So they either missed the cut or, no, they couldn't have gone into the pits after bailing out of a lap, so they missed it. And that has handed Porsche Coanda with potentially a pole position. Here is Sivancic, which is 7 tenths down, so this not really going to be an improvement. Barely. In fact, he pulls across to let the 18 car pass. 5th position for RHE. Is it going to be an improvement for them? They are not on a better lap, although Bono Huis is. Here is Bono Huis. And a change there. RHE back up onto pole position. AMG Team Petronas coming through the final turn. Out of sight, RHE have gone provisional pole. Is there an improvement from AMG Petronas? No, there isn't. No, there isn't. Stay 6th. There is the 8 that's got provisional pole, but it's not going to be the pole position. It's fastest in qualifying, yes, but Coanda, Porsche Coanda 23 at the moment on the provisional pole position, and they've taken the checker flag. There's nobody out there that can do another lap. Wisniewski could, but he hasn't. And so that is our grid. What a really very bizarre qualifying.
And that'll be back-to-back pole positions for them as well. The number 23 Porsche, absolutely great session for them. And we'll be trying to convert that just to a bit of a better result this time around. But RHE, good damage limitation performance from them to go out and get that pole position. And they now give themselves a good chance to fight back for the win tomorrow.
Sunset falls over Sunset Bend at Sebring, and qualifying is over. The LMP category have their grid formed. The GTE category already with their Ferraris on pole position, and it's another works manufacturer that have grabbed the pole position here at Sebring. So much excitement over Porsche's return to Le Mans in the hypercar category in 2023, not just in Le Mans, but in WEC, and will have their opening race here at Sebring in March next year. And in the virtual world, they have the pole position. They'll line up, though, alongside our championship leaders, the number 1. Oh, no, sorry, the number 1 is not our championship leaders, are they?
It is, yeah.
No, they are our championship leaders, despite the trials and tribulations of Verstappen last time out. Verstappen will be in that car tomorrow. So, ignore the number 8 machine. That has a 10-place grid drop and will line up, therefore, in 10th position. The front row will be Porsche Coanda versus Team Redline, with the Coanda number 20 alongside... Oh, I didn't see what that next car was.
It'll be the 63.
It'll be the 63, won't it? Because the 18 drops out as well. Then we have the 53, the number 2 Team Redline, and then Panis up in 9th position, 10th position for R8G, the pole claimer, the fastest team. And there are some of the other cars that were in that qualifying session. All 24 qualified, and we'll have a right mixed up grid going into that turn 1 tomorrow at lunchtime, local time to the UK. Well, there you go. Close as always, but it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. We're going to have to keep our eyes very much peeled on R8G because they've got themselves the pole position. We can actually ride on board now with Marcel and see how his car got the fastest time in qualifying, even though he won't actually start on the pole position.
Yeah, it was a good performance from them because they've given themselves a chance now for tomorrow at least. They've got.
I don't know if I would want to be in 10th position. That's bang in the middle of the field.
It is, but you know, we've seen people come in from, you know, rows 3 and 4 of the grids, and they're going to be down on row 5. As he said, it's a dangerous place to be, and it's just about keeping themselves in the hunt now. But from a neutral point of view, it makes it very exciting, doesn't it, to have the quickest car in qualifying down on row 5 of the grid.
Absolutely, definitely something to watch in the early part of the race, as well as our Romain Grosjean, Matthias Besch 18 machine right in the thick of things. The gap between our top 3 qualifiers, just 6/100ths of a second. A bit of a gap after that to Mitch de Jong, but I think you put that down to the fact that de Jong didn't get a lap in on the final attempts, and neither did Rietveld in the number 1. It might have been different had they not got that penalty at the start of the session, potentially for crossing the white line on pit entry, or sorry, pit exit or something like that. We'll get clarification as to exactly what that penalty was for. But again, the cars look so nice. Really, really well balanced. Not too oversteery, but certainly, as we've come to expect from the Le Mans virtual machines, enough oversteer to really deal with.
Yeah, and this is where it just all comes together there. You can see running as close to the wall as possible. It looks like every time a car comes through there, we're going to see a massive crash. And R8G demonstrating that time that they had just nailed it.
Aussie Josh Rogers, based out of Germany, in the Coanda household, on board the car that will be on that pole position going into turn 1 tomorrow lunchtime. Porsche Coanda works car. I would love to see Josh Rogers in a real car, and he's been such a talent over the years, adjusting to different cars. Big old snap of oversteer entry into there, and still the time only 200ths slower than what we've just seen from R8G.
Yeah, it's not something that's lost in pole position, though. It very well could have been if R8G weren't carrying that penalty, as now makes his way there onto the Allman Straight. Such a fast sequence of bends in a prototype, isn't it? But Josh Rogers makes it look incredibly easy. And
you're on the limit of adhesion, and in a race situation, you've got to get past GTE cars. It's going to be a fascinating sprint race tomorrow. Just 500 miles, another snap. So that car really set up stiff, and yet he can still extract the lap time. That is where you go, the talent is absolutely exceptional. He's such a talented driver.
And now that's one lap. Imagine doing that for a whole stint.
Let's
and
hope
the car's going to be like, and the car's only going to get more and more snappy because of the tyres wearing off.
Well, I hope they set it up a bit softer than that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's going to, and not only that, but of course you're dealing with traffic around you as well. So yeah, it's going to be a real challenge for them.
Well, keep across our social media for all the reaction of this qualifying session. Of course, those comparison laps as well with just hundredths of a second between both our GTE category and our LMP category. We've had R8G fastest in the sessions, but indeed there will be different pole positions after their penalties and lots of work to do for Romain Grosjean's team tomorrow. Lunchtime is kickoff. The Sebring 500 is the penultimate round of Le Mans Virtual for 2022. We'll see you tomorrow.
We are ready to get our race underway. The green flag waves at Sebring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so only 7 wide into turn 1. And there's a big moment and contact. Out wide, he's going to try and get the cutback straight up the inside.